Let's go! Welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins. And if you love college football, you're definitely in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Folks, oh, Miss Lori, are y'all upset with me? I can see it. Here we go. All right. Folks, I'm sorry that we're a little bit late. We had a couple of changes going, but I do have a good treat for everybody. We are going to talk a lot of this, some possibilities that might be pretty amazing for the Big 12 moving forward. And I think even though we've got a lot of Sooner fans in here, hello, everybody. I'm glad everybody's here. Really glad that everybody is here, but there's some amazing possibilities with this. I think that the CU coming back to the Big 12 is about as big as it gets. I think we're about to see some of these other dominoes fall. The possibility, one of them that was brought up by one of our guests today, Mr. Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat's K-State, one of my favorite guests to have. We're going to bring him onto the show right now. Hello, Tim. How's it going, buddy?
I'm good, bud. How are you doing?
Doing great. We are also going to be joined today by David Neill, our buddy David Neill from David Talks Buffs. Hey, man, I've been enjoying your show a lot lately. Happy to have you on the show. Hey, a lot to talk about, gentlemen. I mean, something that talking and watching your show a little bit yesterday, Tim, I was pretty intrigued by an idea that you had. I feel like with these two, if you could end up with both of these teams, I think that Colorado brings a lot to the table, with Coach Prime and being able to recruit the way that they are. I don't know that it probably would have been a great situation otherwise, but just kind of going with, we're going to get your feel of how you feel like this all came about. But Tim, tell me what you think as far as somebody who's, sticking with this conference. I mean, as an Oklahoma creator, we're on our way to the SEC after this season. But what do you like whenever you heard that it was going to be CU after all?
Well, someone had to go first, and I'm glad CU stepped forward. It seemed like I was just saying, it took forever. It just took forever. We knew it was coming. It was going to be inevitable in terms of what we were seeing, because we didn't see a deal from our perspective for the Pac-12. I still don't see a quality deal for the conference. And, from what we're hearing, there have been deals, but they've been passed over to get a better deal. Having Colorado back is great. And I had someone say, why are you guys so excited about Colorado? They haven't won many football games. They won one game last year. My response is this. If Colorado was a couple borders away and not bordering directly with Big 12 states, if Colorado had never been a member and was trying to get into the conference, it wouldn't have happened. But all those things aren't true. They do connect to us. It is a great road trip for a lot of Big 12 fans, and they are family. They have been in the conference first, and they were in the conference a long time ago. It's not like they were just in the Big 12. They were Big 8, and they go back. There's a long history here. So it feels right. It feels a good starting place that Colorado came home, and there's something satisfying about that. For everything this conference has been through, to bring someone back in is very satisfying.
It also, and just my perspective on it is, when you've got a guy like Brett Yormark that's come in here, he's a salesman. He's really kind of taken to making a lot of big changes. He's talked about we were talking about last night, the combine deal, and then the Mexico thing. Some of these things, maybe you like them, maybe you don't. But the thing is, he's thinking outside the box to try to keep this conference relevant, right? It seems like him and Coach Prime are a match made in heaven. I think that kind of stuff.
I think that move by Colorado was a message that
Right.
because that was my concern with Colorado, is I wasn't sure they were taking football seriously anymore.
Right.
And I think that's the general problem with the Pac-12. And I think once Colorado gets back into the Big 12 culture, they'll see how much more important it is again in this conference than that conference. I'm not saying that schools such as SC and Utah don't take it seriously, but there's a lot of schools in there just cruising, collecting money. And that's unfortunate, but the passion of Big 12 fans will be obvious. And I think that along with what's going on with Coach Prime will just absolutely ignite Colorado football.
Right. And David, welcome back to the conference there. Obviously, this is a big deal for the I think it's a big deal for Colorado. There's a few folks that have gotten, I guess, used to the entire being in the Pac-12 side of it. You see a lot of it on Twitter, but I think for the most part, it seems to me like once the idea kind of percolated around there, once Coach Prime got there, and you kind of realize where, because he can recruit nationally. I mean, I think it's with his superstar status, I think he's going to recruit nationally anyway. But it opens up a pipeline in the state of Texas that probably has been, in my opinion, it's been the reason that CU's been bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it kind of reopens that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, with this move, I think for a lot of Buffs fans that have experiences being in the Pac the last 12, 13 years or whatever, we kind of needed to see things start to fall in place a little bit more after Coach Prime being hired for us to kind of get and understand the move, because the landscape with conference realignment and kind of what drove that, I feel like around 2010, things were a lot different back then. And, we really came to a point where we were at the place where the administration needed to make a decision if they were going to recommit to sports or, just not. We couldn't take this half-measured approach anymore, and it wasn't working for the university. And now you see it with what Coach Prime is doing. We see the recruiting, especially in Florida, and now with Texas, it's really going to open up. A lot of people forget that Colorado, we're still kind of a small state population-wise.
Sure.
As I'm sure y'all know, the DFW area has more people in it than the whole state of Colorado itself. And so when it comes to TV viewers, eyeballs, all of that, the states of Florida and Texas, that's primarily where Buffs games are going to be watched from.
Right. And, I think I grew up watching Colorado be relevant and good. I can remember I remember one of the first, real memories that I have of them was back in the years of when they were playing against Notre Dame and Rocket returning that punt and it getting called back. And so that was one of the things that about that same time, it was right in that same time where BYU had won a national championship not that long before that, so that was kind of a golden age of college football when it comes to blue blood type programs. And Colorado was really kind of putting itself in there, kind of when Coach Snyder took over there at K-State and started doing his thing out there. Right. And then at that time, Oklahoma was struggling because they were going through a lot of the stuff from, the end of the Barry Switzer era. So, even being an OU fan, you watch college football, and they were real. Then you had the Rashawn Salam time, and then all of a sudden, once, after that Heisman, it seemed like it just kind of went a little bit this way. But then once they made that move, and it's the same we've seen with Nebraska, right? That they lost that pipeline to Texas, and it really kind of hurt them, don't you think, Fitz?
Yeah, I think that's an important part of this equation. That's not to say you can't recruit Texas if you're not in a Texas-based conference or rooted. But we've seen it with Nebraska too. They abandoned that Texas pipeline. It's just harder. I think Utah does a pretty good job in Texas, but it's difficult.
Sure.
That's why it's strange to me Utah's resistance to this, because they can recruit Texas better. I just don't understand it. And they'll be into some new areas, and if the right schools come, they won't lose their, ties to Colorado or Arizona or anywhere else, even Southern California in some equations, if everything falls right. So much of this is recruiting, and that's an element people don't talk about, recruiting grounds. I think that's been a big add for UCF to the Big 12 to actually have a foot in Central Florida. And look, I think that's why a lot of us, including myself, think USF would be a good add eventually. But no, it's an important part of this equation. Coach Prime understands it. And I'm just glad Colorado's administration said, you know what, if we're going to do this, let's do it. Let's just get this going again. Let's get good in football.
Sure.
And I don't know how long Prime will be there, but he has an opportunity to absolutely ignite your program. And when Kansas State basketball got bad, they went out and hired someone crazy that nobody thought should be hired ever again. His name was Bob Huggins. He was only in Manhattan for a year, but it's been so much better ever since Hugs came to town. So it could be just like that, but you got to get the forward momentum.
That was a game changer too. And, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Coach Prime, but I mean, and looking at it in terms of, and a lot of folks are in here saying, I don't know about Oregon. I don't know about Oregon. I don't think that's going to happen. Everybody thinks, and I mean, I think folks, we all kind of expect that Oregon, and that's all you hear is that they're waiting on that Big Ten deal. But something that, and this is something that, this is the reason I wanted Fitz on the program, is because something that he was talking about yesterday that could be huge, and it actually could be huge for Oregon and maybe be a game changer on their end of it as well. And I'm glad you're in here. Welcome to the show, Mr. Bomber Brown, Nathan Bomber Brown from the Holy Rival Show. Sorry I didn't introduce you yet. We were kind of talking about
right.
Good to see you, man. How you doing?
Yeah, it's good to see you guys too. How you doing, Fitz? How you feeling?
I'm great, brother. I feel good. I just took a nap. I'm all ready. I got my 5 hour. I took a nap. Hey, I'm ready to go.
Very cool. Well, we're all praying for you, brother.
Brother.
So don't think that you don't have support.
Oh, I know I do. The people I've met along the way, the social media support I have for my fight it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Excellent.
So, yeah. All right.
You want me to get into that, Jason, what I was talking about?
Yeah, let's talk about it, because it's not something I really considered, but it was something that I think is going to blow everybody away here. And it really makes a lot of sense. It does. It makes a lot of sense. And I think that if you're a guy like Phil Knight, this may make a lot of sense to you. And I think it'll make a hell of a lot of sense to Brett Yormark. So speak about it. Man.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It's an interesting idea. Someone in the athletics realm who doesn't want to be named brought up to me. And I thought it was a really cool idea. First of all, his idea was you bring Oregon into the fold with Nike, and you turn into a Nike conference in the terms of everyone's going to have a Nike contract. What's interesting about this current alignment is, and the other schools that appear to be coming in, is there's only 2 non-Nike schools. And that's Kansas with Adidas, which is a huge deal. That would be a big barrier to overcome. And Texas Tech with Under Armour, which I'm told the contract's nearing its end. That everyone would have a premium deal from Nike and access to the quickest designs like Oregon does, because sometimes it's a 2-year process if you're just a regular school with Nike, and Oregon seems to get them within weeks. It's longer than that, but that's what it seems like. They can get designs anytime they want. And so every school wouldn't only have Nike stuff, they get paid by Nike. But then I took it a step farther. And the only reason I brought this up, this is an out there idea, but Brett Yormark's number one thing he was told by the presidents and chancellors when he was hired, more revenue. Find a way to keep us on equal footing as best we can with the SEC and Big Ten. And that's part of the basketball initiative, because he sees a way to close the gap there by selling basketball rights separately. But he talked about this sitting inside AT&T Stadium, not Dallas Cowboys Stadium, not Jerry Jones Stadium, not Arlington Football Stadium. They sold the name. Well, he's also mentioned that they're going to rebrand after this year for the 20 when they're back to, they're rid of Oklahoma and Texas. They're going to rebrand. And I thought, why not sell naming rights? What would be the naming rights price of this conference? $5 million a school, $10 million a school? I don't know on an annual basis, but would he even consider the Nike Athletics Conference something like that? And it would be an outlandish deal. And I probably wouldn't even come up with this idea if I hadn't watched Air and watch how they came to this outlandish. We're going to pay them what? We're going to give them part of what? And it turned into the greatest move Nike's ever made. Now, some people say it's stupid. And believe me, I'm a good producer of stupid ideas. But I don't think this is. This feels to me very Yormark. It just, it feels like something he would certainly consider and take to his leaders, his presidents, and say, what do you think? Is it worth $5 million a year, $10 million a year? Because I think the answer would be yes, because I believe this conference needs to change its name and rebrand, because the Big 12 name carries with it some, it's like a wounded victim out there. I still see people talking about the Big 12 is not even close to being Power 2. And I'm like, that's not even close to true. It's not the reality, but I think they associate so many negative thoughts with the Big 12 name that I'm all in on a rename, whether that's selling your name or not.
I mean, I don't know. Hey, Bomber, give me something here. What do you got? What do you got on this? This, to me, I think it's a great idea.
Go ahead.
No, go.
What I was going to say, first I want to introduce myself. Is it David? Is that right? I'm not sure we've met.
Yeah,
so it's nice to meet you. And I want to tell everybody out there, we do have two shows. There's the Holy Rivals show, and then we have Big 12 Mafia. And Big 12 Mafia is my main thing. And so I'm glad to be here with other Big 12 represented schools. So Jason, thank you very much for the invite. So we've been talking about realignment, obviously, just like you guys have for a long, long time. But I've actually been doing Colorado stuff for about 6 weeks. And I did a deep dive in them when their name really started to get floated out there that it could be a good idea to bring them in. I did the exact same thing with Washington and Oregon. Look, Oregon and Washington carry a great brand and value. If they came to the Big 12, I find it really hard to believe that it wouldn't open up the media deal for more money. Sure. I don't think they would come in at some flat rate, and it would be very, very cool to have Phil Knight behind the entire conference. And I do believe that you could sell the naming rights to the conference. You could say Big 12 represented or, represents Nike or something like that. I don't know what the verbiage would be, but I would put that on every logo.
Nike, the Nike 16 or something. I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can go about it.
Do you think the Big Ten's going to allow them to do that?
No.
Do you think the Big Ten's going to be creative and say, oh, sure, come on in?
But they don't have to be.
But that's the point. So why to go to a conference that is basically going to lock you down and actually maybe put you in a tougher division because doing a lot more traveling rather than doing a regional thing? Yeah, BYU, Arizona, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and you're not flying to Rutgers twice a year. It's a big deal. And Brett Yormark, if it can be imagined, it can absolutely be implemented.
Yeah, I agree with you. He pitches everything. He comes up with any idea and puts it on the table.
Right.
And if it's, widely not accepted, they just move on. He's one of those people. He's not sold on any idea or anything. Nothing is sacred. His ideas are what has happened in the past.
To agree on stuff too, because look at how it was going with Oklahoma and Texas. They weren't going to get out after this season. And, everybody was pissy about it, and it was going to be the way it was. But in the end, Oklahoma and Texas were going to end up staying another year and not paying anything to get out.
Right.
Mm-hmm. He saved and he made $100 million out of that because he said, look, guys, we need to go back in here and figure this out.
And let him turn the page, right, Jason?
Absolutely.
Let him turn the page, start clean.
He made everybody happy. He made Fox happy. He made all the schools happy when nobody was happy, right? And I don't know how happy Texas and OU were to pay $50 million each. But they were happy enough to do it, to get out, right? So, and I think that everybody knew that it was time to go ahead and make the clean break. I mean, that's just kind of the way it needed to be, right? Now, is there a cap at how many teams you got or whatever? I don't know. In the end, and I don't know how long this thing is with KU and Adidas, but correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it an Under Armour school at CU this past season before Prime got there? Or they weren't a Nike school yet, or were they already Nike?
Yeah, we've been Nike for quite a while.
Under Armour at JSU.
Yeah.
Never mind. I was thinking something else. Okay. Either way, I mean, big deal. I mean, if the entire conference, aside from what 1-2 schools, and Texas Tech is about to come to the end of their deal, why couldn't you do it? You know,
and something else, Jason, I think.
And if it's worth the money to get you somewhere closer to those other two monster conferences,
well, and I don't think
you wouldn't.
We're going to be an A3 here really quick. It's going to be an AQ3. The other two conferences are going to cease to exist as early as the middle of August this year. And I don't know if you guys have talked about a lot of that, because I know, Jason, you're not doing so much realignment, but out on the horizon, I have enough contacts that have told me personally, I'm talking people that are high up in some of these schools in the ACC, that say there's several that could be gone. I don't want to name all of them, but the usual suspects are North Carolina, Florida State, and Clemson, and they're just going to challenge the Gore in court. They're going to go at it from a legal perspective and say, hey, look, this is what we think we should be able to do, and we think we have the ability to buy ourselves out of this thing. And if that happens, then the conference melts, just like what happened with the Pac-12. And now you're looking at three dominant conferences. Yeah, the Big 12 will probably always still be a little bit behind, but it's nothing compared to what it would be if everybody stopped and it was just the SEC and the Big 10. So your mark has got to be talking to Phil Knight and anybody else that's in charge in the current Pac-12, Pac-3, whatever it's going to be, and say, hey, look, this is my proposition. My proposition is you come to us, and we are now at $55 or $60 million by taking all these little things that he's put together for generating money, and now all of a sudden it's back to being really three conferences that are dominating.
Competitive,
absolutely.
And you can, and by doing that, you can entice Phil Knight and Oregon to want to be a part of this league as well, where they're not. I mean, because to me, I guess everybody is just assuming that they're going to go to the Big Ten, right? Because the money is right. And they want to. And I know that UCLA and USC want nothing to do with any other Pac schools being in the league.
Right.
At this moment, that's the way they are. But to me, I think that they did vet them. We've heard all that. But this, the automatic assumption has been that. But if you're Yormark and you're able to pitch that to Phil Knight into Oregon,
right?
Would that not be enticing enough? Fitz, I think it's a freaking amazing idea.
Well, my thing about Oregon is, I don't think they're going to get a Big Ten invite. I mean, even if the Big Ten decides we're going to go with more Pac schools, guys, I think they're down the list for a couple.
Well, they've pissed a lot of people off.
Exactly.
Recruiting and some other things. Oregon is not making friends in the Big Ten right now.
And that's also a red flag for the Big 12. Are you going to bring in a troublesome partner? Because right now this conference is very united. And that's probably one of the issues they're working through. You're going to be one of the team, not the one. And even if, Phil Knight chunks in a bunch of money, it's a business move, not buying power for Oregon. I don't know how that would work, to be real honest. I don't know the politics of it. But let me say this. I think if the Big Ten expands into the West, I think Washington and Stanford are the first two. Washington and Stanford are, big-time AAU schools, research. The Stanford endowment is world famous. And if there's a fifth one, God help him, it'd be Cal. And I don't know why anyone would want Cal, but the Big Ten, the academics would play a role in that.
There's a problem with Stanford, Tim.
What's that?
They don't want to share their research. They won't. They will. It's been a long-standing issue. I found this out, that Stanford's research endowment, they do not want to share it with the rest of the Big Ten. And the rest of the Big Ten shares all of their research. But Stanford is not willing to subvert that. Otherwise, they would have been in the Big Ten years ago, and they would have taken Washington and Stanford immediately. But I've come to find out that they don't want to share the research that they put in with the Big Ten, and it's been going back for years.
I
It's
still
not
don't
not
understand
realignment now.
None of that crap even matters. I mean, I
Well, it
guess it
matters in
does in the Big
Stanford.
Ten. It does in the Big Ten.
Right.
But I don't know how you. I mean, why would you have to? Why
I
would you
think
have?
Tony had a chart about that, didn't he? About how much research money they all
Yeah,
have and how
right.
important that is.
Tony
That's
today.
so stupid. Yeah, that's so stupid.
Oh, yeah, we couldn't bring him up, but only to bust his chops. Okay,
Yeah.
look, I mean, we know that when it comes to that, hey, listen, I believe what you're saying, and I think that if there's a real fit for the Big Ten Conference, and no Utah fan, it's not Utah.
Not
I'm
now.
sorry, but it isn't. It's just not. And at this point, I don't know that Utah's a great fit for the Big 12 because of the fact of everything that's been said. And it's not just coming from fans on Twitter. It's not the only place it's coming from. This has been coming from administrators, the athletic director, even. I mean, you've heard a lot of this kind of stuff coming from them, and which has emboldened a lot of the guys, a lot of the fans that are out there being the loudest. Your Utah Pig Bus guys, and other people like that. Morons like Tony.
It's real. I mean,
but
I
is
mentioned
real.
this a long time ago that the Big 12 is very aware of the problem of Utah fans because they've encountered it with administration and just. I mean, look, if you don't want to leave the Pac-12, that's great. Some people didn't leave the Titanic. They thought that was a good idea.
And I think that's exactly
if you want to be the fiddler on the Titanic playing that violin, go for it, man. Have fun.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I've never understood it. And it's such a weird thing. And a lot of it, when talking about some of these guys, like even Wilner and Canzano, it's like they expect this loyalty, and Utah is being so loyal to a conference that isn't being loyal to them.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
They've lied to you. I mean,
Colorado has been the scapegoat now for months.
Oh, good.
And this.
I love this new narrative that SDSU is so much more.
Oh yeah,
it's an upgrade. If it was an upgrade, SDSU would have went in instead of Utah.
Right. That's right. Yeah, well, and at the end of the day, Colorado was already an old Big 12 member, so the transition is easy. It's natural. I don't know why people are fighting it. What's remarkable to me is that articles that came out just this week are saying they were blindsided by the move by Colorado. Look, everybody knew they were moving for 2 weeks.
No, they weren't.
When Colorado's president went out and said on last Thursday, I want to see numbers, and I'm going to see numbers, and they didn't see numbers. That was pretty much it, guys. Because every day after that, there's breadcrumbs that led and basically said, yep, Wednesday it's going to pop. Oh, wait a second. We had no idea Colorado could leave. What? This is madness. Where did this idea even come from? They just did this in the dark of night. It's all of it is a narrative. They're just trying to blame other people for their own mismanagement.
Right. And guys, real quick before we go on, folks, we got a lot of folks in here. We got 92 people. Please make sure you hit that like button.
Nice.
We got 19 likes right now.
Excellent.
19. So
Let's
come
go.
on, folks. Out of 92 people, we got 19 likes. If you're not,
let's get it done.
I'm sorry. This has got to be, and look, there's lots of ways that you can help out us. We take super chats and all that other stuff, but the best way to help out any program, any creator in this space is to hit that like button and make sure that you are sharing this with your friends. It helps us out a ton. We also do you can become a channel member, get perks. We'll talk about a lot more of these kind of things in our, in our Discord channel. Man, I just lost the screen here. Yikes.
Technology
in our Discord channel. Wow, I'm not great with it.
Can I ask David a question?
Yeah, I was just about to ask David myself.
Okay. Oh, go
David,
ahead.
Talk to us about what you heard and what your expectation was. When did you know, and when did the university know that they were making this move?
Man, well, that's a good question. I don't particularly have like any of these like sources, I guess. I'm a guy that's big time like connected to the university, but it seemed like what was really odd to me was that our beat guys that cover it, like Brian Howell or Adam Munster-Tiger, they've been awfully quiet throughout the past 9 months, really with anything to do with realignment. And the one thing that really did stick out to me, and this was a big deal in kind of getting my perspective changed, I guess, because initially it's like I wanted, after we hired Prime, it's like I would like the Pac to work. It's the conference that we're in. If we take some entrepreneurial approaches to it, I think that there's a way in which the conference can grow. Obviously, none of those approaches were taken. And Brian Howell came out with a post, I think it was Brian Howell in February, that said that they were expecting to have a deal on the table to discuss before the March Madness tournament, before the conference.
Said in December that it was going to be after the first of the year.
Exactly.
And it's been going on for a year like this.
Yeah. And for me, I think like that was the final straw. And for me and a lot of Buffs fans, I feel like waiting to see like what was going to happen with the conference, because it's like we've been waiting around for so long. And we're at the finish line when it comes to, we need a deal done, or else other opportunities are going to start to come up. So I think that was a big shifting point for a lot of people that might have been hesitant towards coming back to the Big 12. But I think as we've seen how Prime has been working in the recruiting, and then you see it as well with—
that would be my question, was how much did he have influence over that move too?
Yes, because we see the races that we're in now in Florida and Texas. We saw like the amount of viewers that we had at the spring game in April with snow. Everything just started to click. It's like, why would we want to risk what we're doing not being on linear television? Why would we want to take what we're building right now and risk it on just being streaming specific in the Pacific time zone mainly? Everything was just adding up to where we needed to be just more focused on we needed to find somebody who is a lot like Coach Prime, and just taking different approaches, going against the grain, kind of taking an entrepreneurial approach. Brett Yormark is that. And then this conference overall, it just has a very entrepreneurial kind of startup feel to it. I love your idea of rebranding, Fitz, because I think that's absolutely necessary with the negative connotations that the Big 12 name can spark. But I think it's over time, I think Buffs fans throughout this spring and summer, as we've been able to see Coach Prime move, we've continued to see the Pac-12 do nothing. It just became more and more obvious that like this was the perfect fit, the perfect time to move right now, because we need to be around other people that think creatively. And we have a lot of brands in the conference now that maybe they've been behind the shadows of a program like OU or Texas for a long time. Or in our case, I mean, I guess we've been in the shadows of pretty much every other Pac-12 program the last 13 years, USC and, UCLA, Oregon, all that. But we're a group of schools now that we all have a lot to prove. And I think it's cool to have that sort of synergy that we've never had the last 13 years in the Pac-12.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. And that's the crazy thing about it, is that you start looking at as I said, you remember Colorado in my youth. I remember them being really, really good, and now they've been to one bowl game since they left. I think it was the worst move they could have made. And come to find out, Bomber, talk to us about this stuff that you've shown. Even with their research money, they haven't done as well since they moved. Am I right?
No, both Utah and Colorado had an initial spike. And I could find the document if you wanted me to, but it had an initial spike right when they joined the league. And then they had almost 2 years later a massive drop, where they went down lower than where they'd been originally. So it has started to come up again, but it's not this we've seen other charts and graphs that say it's been this steady climb, and they've made they actually were doing something like 52% research at one point, and it dropped to 37. They had some really, really bad years, and I don't know what caused that. Isn't research sort of separate from the rest of the economy? I can't figure out why numbers would go down. So it has not been the windfall that we've been told over the last year.
I saw charts. I saw the charts. Tony had the charts.
Let me see
The
if I
charts
can
were
find
definitive.
it. Hang on. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
and
Jason. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, see, and that's what the charts that Tony Altimore had out there, and you don't have to bring this stuff up. We know the difference. We know what's going on.
All right.
What I was saying is that what Altimore put out there was he was just showing that they're doing all this money in comparison to the Big 12, which everybody knows that the Big 12 isn't an AAU conference.
It's not a research focused conference.
It's not a big research
put money in other
There's
things.
a lot of land grant schools. There's a lot of, it's a different thing. Now, could some of these schools be AAU? Sure. Oklahoma could be an AAU school with its medical facilities easily. Texas is one. I don't think that they care much about it because they don't share any of their freaking research money either.
Right.
They do their Texas system. The Texas medical system, I don't even know why they're in AAU, to be honest with you. Do you, Fitz? I mean, because I know that they have their group of schools in Texas that are locked into UT, right? And they have their medical programs within these schools, and that's where they do their research. They don't do it with anybody else. They don't care about sharing it with anybody else, and they don't need to. Hell, Kansas does it with the Big Ten. They're not doing it. But it was the whole idea of what he was throwing out there was that it was going to be such a big thing when you can tell that it is a regional thing. If you're AAU, you're going to continue to do research with the schools that are nearby. I know that we have the ability to do things like what we're doing right now and get online and talk with each other, right?
Right.
In the end, it's so overblown, and that's clear, because if all that shit really mattered, then the deal would have been taken instead of thrown away for the Big 12. I mean, look, the Big 12 should really be thanking Playoff Cough in the Pack, because otherwise it could be the other way around, right?
Right.
So
if research was important, they'd be inviting Tulane and Rice. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, they're looking at schools. The irony is they're looking at schools now for expansion, which they need to do. They needed to do it before this. And if SDSU was so valuable, well, why didn't you add them? I mean, why did you should have added them immediately if they carry such value. But as we get down the line, they're beginning to invite schools that remember when they looked at Big 12 expansion a couple of years ago, adding in some Big 12 schools, and they all came out and said, "Oh, you're just not good academically. We just don't want you in our conference." And now they're going around and inviting schools that are beneath a lot of those schools. It just doesn't make sense. It's a false narrative. But Cal continues to haunt them with these academic demands because let's be honest here. If they wanted to add San Diego State, Boise, UNLV, someone else, Fresno State, they would have a good regional conference and they would still have good football. But they won't do that because a couple of those schools just don't have the academics. It's silly. They're killing themselves. But the Big 12 is what it is. As you said, Jason, these are land grant schools, a lot of them. Yeah, we have some. Baylor and Kansas have great medical schools.
Absolutely.
But every school in this conference, for the most part, has been overlooked, has had the sand kicked in their face, whether it's, the remaining schools that were, left behind because everyone else had more value for other conferences, or the new schools coming in like UCF and BYU and Cincinnati and Houston that have been told, no, you're not good enough. We don't want you. Maybe it's religion. Maybe it's you're a commuter school. Maybe there's always an excuse.
Sure.
In the Big 12, that's the DNA of this conference. Oh, yeah, you don't think much of us? Well, how about this? And you go compete on the field, and the fans are passionate and fired up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that you've seen that all over the conference. Just like you said earlier, you've got a couple of schools that are serious about it, and something that, you heard, I was watching the Voice of College Football last night, and you had that, a Utah fan that I'm not going to bring him up, in his name, but you know who I'm talking about, Bomber, that was complaining about all this stuff that people are saying about them. And hey, buddy, don't complain now. Nobody wants to hear you're complaining because you guys have been awful to people, right? Awful. And the things that you said about not just the Big 12 conference itself and the schools that are already there, but about the ones coming in, BYU, for instance, and I believe that there is value there. And I've said this for a long time, that I think that it's a mistake if you leave out Utah in terms of the Holy War and because of their brand in football and what Coach Witt does, right? And I think they only get better in the Big 12 because of the fact that he already has a pipeline to Texas. As you said, Tim, he's already got one. He's done a great job recruiting Dallas in particular. You know, I think it would only get better. But I think at this point, it's so toxic at this point that there's no way. I think that you have to at least give the shot to making a whatever wild offer you can make to Oregon and see how it goes, you know, because the truth is they're going to have the money that they need to have the facilities that they need, right? Particularly if you did a branding deal like that. I think it would behoove them a lot more. And I think it's a better option than Arizona, either of the Arizona schools. I think it's certainly a better option than Utah, even though I think there is a rivalry that you could put together with CU as well. But I mean, I'm in love with this idea. I got to tell you, and I think that if Yormark isn't thinking about this, he should be now, right?
David, from your perspective, who would be the best additions from the West to group with BYU and Colorado?
Man, that's a great question. It's really interesting because from like a Colorado's fan perspective, we've been so bad that like no one has developed a rivalry with us in the Pac-12. So it's really odd because now we're kind of in a position where it's like, okay, like who would we, want ourselves to see play in this conference? But I think honestly, even though it's not exactly like a football powerhouse, I would like to see Arizona over here just for regionality reasons.
Sure.
And honestly, I think I like the idea of seeing what Yormark can do with basketball, but of course these moves need to be made with football first. I would like to see Utah over here, but again, for the reasons that you just laid out, aside from the Holy War and like actually like having a quality team come in here, I don't know if the market share on top of some of all this toxicity is worth the investment. I would love to see Washington here. I would love to see Oregon here. I am a little bit nervous about Oregon because you do want to have that loyalty and that commitment long term moving forward. But even if it's just short term, like maybe we don't even worry about what happens, what could happen in 6-7 years with the Big Ten. Like let's just focus on the now. Like we know that these are big brands. Let's focus on the now, get them in here, and then let Yormark and the rest of the conference start getting to work. Really kind of showing our ability to put together some creative deals that fits that you just outlined would be really advantageous for a university like Oregon. But I would much rather see Arizona, Oregon, Washington coming out here. If you can't get one of those three, I think I would be more open to Utah, but I have absolutely no desire to see schools like Stanford or Cal out here, or really Arizona State. I guess
that's a non-starter for them too.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, man, there was another thing I was going to say. I just completely spaced on it. But overall, I would love to see some more Pac schools come out here. And like prove this on the field. There's been a lot of talk back and forth about where our values are different and, we're a better school in this way compared to the Big 12, all that. Like, let's settle this on the field. Let's breed rivalry. Like, let's not be scared from that, but we'll just have to see if this conference can use the prestige and the tradition of the Big Ten against itself with recruiting some of these other schools, then we got to do it.
Agreed.
I agree too. And my thing is this, and I'll pass this to you here real quick, Bomber. I would rather, and I know there's a lot of people out there talking about that Yormark ought to get his UConn if he wants to. I think that's the craziest thing in the world. I don't think that UConn, I get it if you're a West Virginia guy that you want somebody that's a little closer to you, another travel partner. I understand that. You did get Cincinnati, UCF's a little closer, but it would help them, and that's a longer trip for them if you were to get a West Coast school or whatever, right? In my opinion, though, the Big 12 and whatever you're going to end up calling it, you got to try to stay somewhat regional if you possibly can. And the fact is, there's one brand in the country, period, and this includes, that kind of overtakes even the blue bloods, and that's that Oregon Nike deal. They love the uniforms. They've changed the way things are looked at. I mean, look, Oregon was trash the whole time. We were talking about how good Colorado was. Oregon was nothing. Yeah, I didn't even think of Oregon. Nobody did for the longest time, right? Yeah. Now you can't not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kids, believe me, they do. I mean, you start talking to kids that, they've never been to Oregon. They don't know anything about Oregon, and they are going to go check that school out. And that's why they're recruiting on the level that they are, is because they do have a brand that works. If you are the Big 12 and you're losing Texas and you're losing Oklahoma, you could use brands like these two, Colorado with Coach Prime and Oregon. I think that those are your home run swings that you got to take if you're Brett Yormark, in my opinion. And regionality doesn't hurt anything either. I don't feel like this whole idea of a merger with the ACC or whatever. I mean, it's like you were saying a minute ago, Bomber. You're going to go to Maryland and Rutgers,
right,
all year long. I mean, these are tough trips, man. These are tough trips.
Yeah. Look, I think there's 2 more spots out west, and they want to have 4 out west, and so it's going to get competitive. I'm convinced Arizona will come in early next week. And guys, you got to understand all the different, I hate to use this word, masters that Brett Yormark is serving here. He's trying to raise the revenue, so that brings in maybe an Oregon. He's trying to do the Big 12 Mexico initiative. Guys, that's San Diego State. I mean, they're the Aztecs, for God's sakes. I mean, they would be a great sales pitch in his Big 12 Mexico pitch to bring in new fans. And he's trying to build a basketball conference, and that's why UConn's on the list. And so I think they'll add 2 more out west, unless a third school steps up and, maybe let's say they add Utah and Arizona, we're done. And then Oregon says, you know what, we're coming. We want to come now, and we'll sign a grant of rights for whatever period, and Phil's on board. You can't say no. But in reality, what Bomber brought up, the ACC stuff, I think you want to be cautious right now. And that might be really what's underlying here with the 14 comment. We're going to add 1 more, Arizona, and then we're going to shut it down, because we've got to see what's going on with the ACC. They still will want more schools or school out west, but they don't want to fill up so much that if something shakes loose there on the East Coast, and all of a sudden you get an NC State, let alone a Florida State, or, a Virginia Tech, some of those schools, Duke, which plays into the initiative for basketball. If those schools are available, you want them, and you don't want to be loaded up on some other schools that maybe you regret at the end of the day.
Right. I understand that. And I guess I definitely understand what you're saying with SDSU. Do I think that they bring the same type of value, though, to the league, even as the Arizona State? No, I don't. No, I don't. And I think that you get into that West Coast time zone with ASU. You can do that right there. Obviously, if you get Oregon, you're in it. You're already in it.
So Jason, let me just say a few things here.
Okay.
First of all, Bob Thompson said in August last year, it's rivalries and brands that are driving dollars.
Absolutely.
Okay, it's not viewers. That's why the Pac-12 deal didn't work, is because they were going off the old calculations, the old formula. The new formula is Brett Yormark through and through. So if you go rivalries and brands, I think this round you do not pull in any more G5 schools. It's not San Diego State's going to be there if you want them. UConn's going to be there if you want them. Who else is taking them? Nobody's rushing to get them right now. Right. So why not wait? You can get them whenever you want. So I don't think that's going to work. I think that UConn and San Diego State are still going to be available. They're going to want to get, well, I think Arizona, like Tim said, is in the bag. It's just a matter of when. Monday or Tuesday, we'll probably get some clarity on that. And then could you get two more schools in the Pac-12? Absolutely could. If your first two picks are Oregon and Washington. If you can get Oregon and Washington, call it a day and walk away. Yep. But if you don't get Oregon and Washington, it opens up some intriguing things, right? ASU and Utah bring in rivalries. Remember, we're rivalries and brands.
Yes,
That's can you imagine Brett Yormark doing a November where you're doing nothing but college game days at rivalry towns? They would own every day in the western part of the country. They would own every one of those Saturdays with rivalries, and then the brands that come with them will then be enhanced. So if you can get them now, I say you do get Utah and Arizona State. I know why everybody doesn't like them. Tim, I know, has strong feelings about Utah, especially. But at the end of the day, they're a brand. We can argue about it all we want, but they are a brand. They're not USC. But
they're not Oregon. They're not Washington either.
That's why I said Oregon and Washington are 1 and 2. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But if you can't get them, again, that's the premise. They're not coming, and they're going to hold out. Maybe independence for 2 years or something. They do not go to a conference, and they're just waiting for that call up at the Big Ten that may never come. If the ACC blows up, they're going to pick up 6 of those schools. That only leaves 2 schools that you could go to get to 24. The math doesn't work. So there's only 2 more brands that they might pick. It isn't necessarily Oregon and Washington, because Oregon has pissed a lot of people off in the Big Ten. That's a real thing. People are people.
No,
and that's way more than money. So I'm just saying, you take the best available, and so Arizona and then 2 more, or you don't take any more in the West and you wait for the ACC to blow up.
Yeah. I think that's what they'll do. They'll just say, you know what, we're going to wait. We'll take Arizona. We're at 14. We've got enough to schedule. They'll just slide CU and Arizona into those Texas and Oklahoma scheduling slots that are already going, and move on from there, and just pause and wait to see what's up with the ACC, because it's not just whether they'll break up, but do 4 go to the Big Ten and 4 to the SEC, or does Notre Dame get involved in this with the Big Ten and leave? Because if you look, that's the greatest irony of all this. The ACC is filled with schools that the other 3 conferences could use, would want. Yeah, but put together collectively, they have a horrible deal.
Yeah,
it's craziness. But I think at the end of the day, if the Big 12 could pick up another Florida market, it's huge. If they could pick up Georgia Tech, which I know doesn't deliver Atlanta, but it gives you a presence in Georgia, it's huge. And then if you get a North Carolina State, you've got a pod of 4 teams in kind of the South, and North Carolina's a little bit up there. But I for all we're talking about, Brett Yormark wanting to build a coast-to-coast conference, which is brilliant, there's also a sense of we need some geography here. We have 4 schools in the Plains. Yeah. We have 4 schools in Texas. Can we get 4 schools out west with Colorado and Arizona and BYU and one other of the 4 corner schools? That makes sense. Can we add someone or 2 up east to give West Virginia and Cincinnati some partners? Can we get some more partners down south? If they can pull off all that, it alleviates so much of the scheduling. And I hear people say, well, you're going to have BYU going to UCF. If you schedule properly, the West schools are going east and the East schools are going west in football once a year, one game. And you can even make that you can make the tradition of the cross-country Thursday night game on, whatever platform. And, give them some time off before and after. There's so much here, and Brett Yormark is thinking of all of these pieces and how they fit together. So it's a constant calculation. I think of those GIFs of all the math going on around their head. I feel like that's Brett Yormark trying to figure out who to add, what do they bring, how do they fit in, what do we do with this, how do we make more money? It's just his mind is kind of fun to watch when he starts talking about things, because he gives away hints.
Did you?
And in the end, what does bring more money, though, is just like what John Tell is saying. And thank you for the super chat here, John Tell. Get Oregon, Washington, and don't go all in on Utah. Listen, I'm with you on that. I think that Oregon and Washington is a huge rivalry in itself. And then if you get Utah, then you have, of course, the rivalry with BYU, but you also have what could be a rivalry with Colorado being in the Four Corners area, right? It should be. I think that TCU and then you've got the Oklahoma schools right there as well. It's regional, it's right. I think it works out. I think Kansas and Kansas State. I mean, it's all. I'd like to see it kind of stay as regional as you can. If you look at the SEC, they're obviously a little bit different than this, but Greg Sankey said they don't want to get out of their regional footprint. They don't. That doesn't, and of course they can afford to do that with their deal that they have. When it comes to this, I don't know where UConn brings value like that. Where is the rivalry there? What rivalry are you putting together?
There isn't one. There isn't.
And what?
No,
I mean,
it's a basketball play.
Yeah,
and
okay,
we all recognize football will
but
get
they
better
only
with
win
Big 12
one
money.
every 15 years, and then they're kind of crappy for the rest of the
No,
time. Right?
we have to keep perception up. This is an idea I got from Moen Vision, who's a Big Ten guy. He's from OSU, and I take it to heart, and I've put it in my day-to-day speaking when I'm online, and that is that right now it's all about football. I realize Yormark wants to do the thing with basketball. I don't think anybody says that can't come, but it's not a need. You don't have
do that
to
with
do
Arizona, and it's here, and there's rivalry with it.
I like
right?
UConn. I just want to be very clear. I very much think they're a valuable property. There's just not a rush to get them. Let's see what happens with the rest of the Pac-12 and then the ACC. And then in 6 years, in 8 years, we do the basketball thing. There's absolutely no reason to rush that because it's not going to change. They're still going to be the best conference if they get Arizona in now, right? So it's just a matter of time. Basketball will come.
Yeah, and I think that you can sell basketball, but in the end, right now, as you said, you have to sell the football. That's all. I mean, this is what everybody's getting paid on. I mean, should the game be changed? Yeah. Look at what they make off of the NCAA tournament. Don't tell me that people don't care about college basketball because they do. You know, we know that.
Conferences have been giving away their basketball, and he's come
Still
again.
Stuff, right?
The disruptor came in and realized that.
Yep.
It's only 10 to 20%. And yet here we are watching the NCAA basketball tournament be one of the hugest sporting events in the world. That doesn't make sense. You've got maybe the biggest brand in college basketball in Kansas, and they don't have value. That doesn't make sense. And I think with the addition of Houston, the emergence of some of these other Big 12 programs that are coming up, Baylor's got a national championship, Kansas State showed some progress. You had Arizona. You start bringing in ACC schools, maybe a UConn. Look, it's going to be undeniable that everything the SEC claims to be in football because of a couple really good programs, the Big 12 will be that in basketball. They'll actually have all the titles to prove it. So I think it's an interesting concept, but you're right. It doesn't have to start right now, Bomber. You're exactly right with UConn. And I think that's what I'm hearing. He's been told by the presidents.
Right.
Look, I know you want UConn. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
And neither is the conference. We don't need them yet. If someone else takes them, if the ACC grabs them, well, that's fine. The ACC is going to come apart, and if they don't, we're going to be at 16 anyhow.
Years away too. I don't see the ACC coming apart just yet anyway. I just don't see it. You know,
Jason, it's out there. I'm telling you, the smoke is out there.
Yeah, there's going to be a lawsuit based on fraud coming.
It is. It's going to happen.
So here's what I want to say to Mikey here.
Okay.
The Big Ten taking them for half price. You think that they're going to take half price if they can get a better deal and come over here and be a real, not have to make those trips out there? Even if you get the same amount of money and you come to the Big 12, you make more. That doesn't make sense. And what are you talking about? ESPN Death Row? They're not losing anything. That's not happening.
The perception thing is a real thing. It's real. And the perception is the Big 12 is soft, and part of that is because they are good at basketball. The rest of the world is looking at those schools and saying, we devalue this from just an eyeball perspective. All four of us know that's a complete lie. It's a fabrication, but it's something they're going to have to fight back on. I think it's
the most competitive league in the country.
Top to bottom it is. But again, this perception thing, if they bring in basketball schools now, knowing that football schools are on the board potentially, it will make the Big 12 look weak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, and I could agree with this part. I can see Washington going, but I'm going to tell you, I don't think Fitz just said it doesn't sound to me like they're all that excited. And even in the same thing that we're hearing from Bomber, that Oregon has kind of pissed off some people in the Big Ten.
They have. That's a fact.
And so that's, I mean, if that invite isn't coming, number one, why just because they vetted them out doesn't mean it. If they're pissed them off and they don't want to, and they're not going to send that invite, they want to send it to Stanford first. Because here's the thing that the Big Ten is trying to do, if you're asking me. They want Notre Dame above all else.
Yep.
That is the big fish to fry right now anyway. That is the big boy.
Yep.
On its own, it's big. So if they're not going to get Notre Dame, though, unless they bring in Stanford, right? That you got to get Stanford. And in Stanford, you might end up having to get Cal. But they're both AAU schools. I could see that working out because of the whole California system with Cal and UCLA. I could see that working too. The one thing I definitely understand why. What is Oregon? Where do they fit in there? Where do they fit in there?
Their brand, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's just the brand. But
Jason, you said this earlier. They were nothing in the 80s and 90s. They
That's
were
correct.
they were the
they don't
worst
have a
team
real
in the
rivalry
Pac-12.
except for with Washington, though.
Washington State used to beat them down all the time. That's how bad they
That's right.
were. And then Phil Knight decided one day, woke up and had a hair that said, you know what? I'm going to underwrite my school to the tune of billions of dollars. And that money turned everything around. As we know, money is the grease that is keeping all of us doing what we do. And that's what made Oregon a real thing. Now, there's an endowment built in. Phil Knight dies. They're still going to get money from Nike. So that if people are looking to, well, when Phil Knight dies, write that off. They've got an endowment that's set aside at Nike to continue to fund them at a particular level. So at the end of the day, does Big Ten want them? Yes. But do they want them ahead of some of these other schools? That is the question.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer that you make that move if you can. Obviously, you got to try to make that move if you can. That you would try to pull Washington with that. I think that Washington would probably be that Big Ten team. But again, some of these rivalries that have kind of sparked, within that Utah and Oregon kind of have a rivalry right now, do they not? If Washington's a no and you could get Utah,
absolutely,
that's big for football. And what are you trying to service the most right now? Football, right? Absolutely. Now, that being said, I don't even know that this is a good question to ask, I guess, everybody. And what's your take on it, Tim? Does Utah even want to be a Big 12 school?
No, I don't sense that they do in any way.
No.
And the irony is, before this all really started to break loose, I got a good buddy whose daughter goes to Utah and he's been to football games. He goes, dude, that's a Big 12 school. They love their football. Their fans are Big 12. Everything about them is Big 12. They don't realize it because they have this
brainwashed.
12 and we're academic elites now. And it's like,
they are not.
Guys. Nobody sees you as an I think you're a fine academic school. I think you have a med school. You do a lot of cool stuff in graduate school. You're a fine school. But nobody's looking at Utah as Princeton or Northwestern or even Michigan. Nobody's doing that. And they're such a good fit for this conference, but their fans and even their administration have made it clear they think they're above the Big 12. So I just think there's a general sense, not just among people like me or just, fans out there, in the Big 12 offices, Utah may not be worth this. They just may not. And Bomber's right. The brand, the rivalry with BYU would be huge. Bringing in Arizona and Arizona State together would be huge.
Dollar signs all the time.
With you. Yeah.
So I'll be intrigued. Like I said, with all these calculations Yormark's got going in his head, what will he do? What will be the next calculation?
Well, here's the other thing about it too. I know that the rest of the league doesn't want him in there, but don't you need a heel? I mean, everybody bitches about Texas. Everybody bitches about Texas, but
we have Kansas.
We have Texas A&M, and then we had Texas, and then we had right. It goes to somebody now. It's UCF. It's great to have those bad guys in your conference.
Texas is being that heel. Now what do you got? You got Kansas, I guess.
That's new to me. I hadn't heard that they were a heel for anybody. So
K-State, K-State and Kansas hate each other. I get it. I get it. It's a great rivalry. It's a great rivalry. Is it going to carry the conference?
No.
And that's the thing. And not to say that the Holy War will, but it'll be pretty big, man. I think it's one of those things that if you can get these together, and I feel like the prime factor with TCU and Texas Tech, I think that could be big as well. You know, I really do. I think that could right there, he's going to, because he's upsetting the apple cart already in recruiting. He is. He's doing that with Texas and OU already. I mean, you got Venables taking shots at him, right, for the way that he's doing things. Why would he? Because just like the same reason that Nick Saban did it, and you know, everybody's taking their shots at Deion. You know what I mean? Do I think it bothers Deion too much? No, he expects it, and you should expect it, right? You should expect it. I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares. And the beauty of that is, though, you can, and he can work up people more than anybody else does because he doesn't care what he says. The one thing that stays on brand about Prime is that he don't change. He talks smack. He's,
you know what's ironic, Jason? You know what's ironic about him is that when they were negotiating last fall, the Pac-12, and then they found out about Deion at the beginning of December, the very first thing Kliavkov did was walk out there and say, well, it's a good thing we waited because now we have Prime in the Pac-12 conference. Now they're going to be worth so much more money. He was just waiting for the dollar signs to come falling out of the sky.
He is such an ass clown.
Look,
dude.
he's over his head.
He
doesn't know what he's doing. He just doesn't know what he's doing.
No,
that's it.
You sit down at a negotiating table with anyone that knows how to negotiate, and you say we are worth this, and it's double what the market value actually is.
Right.
You're not starting a negotiation. You're going to get laughed at, and they're going to get up and leave. And that's what Fox did.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's what you think. Well, we're never going to come to an agreement on that, so we're out of here.
Right.
And now we're hearing ESPN now that the Big 12 is adding some, consistent late night product here. ESPN's even like, okay, we don't really need the pack anymore. We're going to get up and out of here.
Let's see.
Yeah, man. It's it's so weird. There's a reason why. I mean, that they've really depended on misinformation, BS, and just ugliness to try to keep this thing where, to keep alive, because and I don't even think it's all on GK. I think as much of it has to do with these presidents, where they've got this idea that, and I heard Altimore say this one day, which made me laugh. Oh, well, the commissioner here he's not in charge of anything. Ass clown, they're not in charge of anything anywhere. It's but these presidents are out of their mind, thinking that they're worth so much more. And then for him, the difference between him and any of the other ones, really, and in particular, we're talking Yormark here. Yormark, again, think about the Texas OU thing. They were going to be another year. There was going to be no money made out of this. None. They were going to walk for free to the SEC in another year, right? Now, that's not the case. They're going to pay $100 million, and he knew that he needed to make that happen. They had walked away. A week later, he's like, well, "Hey, fellas, we got to get this done." He was able to bring them together. I don't think that freaking Brett Yormark or that GK can talk them into a freaking sandwich.
Well, he promised them a buffet with filet, and then they'd get a sandwich.
Exactly.
But I mean, he can't talk them into anything, nothing. No.
Well, I mean, let's be really honest here. People want to take shots at Silent George and Snake Oil Larry Scott, but it's not they're not the problem. It's the presidents and chancellors who hire them that are the problem. No. They don't have a grasp of the proper role of college athletics in an academic environment. And the two go together. They're not totally separated, but they don't dominate each other. You need the front door, the front porch initiative of college athletics to get people into your bigger house of education.
Man. Yeah.
And just the whole thought of how demeaning they are to sports is exactly why people don't want to spend money on them. It's not important to them, so why should someone spend money on it?
That's exactly
and I'm
right.
glad Colorado's made the move. Yep. I'll be interested to see if Arizona does indeed do it. But everything we knew would happen is happening finally. And the only thing that's made that not occur is the constant gaslighting by George that says, we got a deal coming, we got a deal coming, got a deal coming. And finally, Colorado's leadership said, okay, we'll talk about this at Pac-12 Media Days. We expect to see some numbers. Everyone misread those signals wrong. And I knew it exactly what they were doing. Deliver the numbers when you said you're going to deliver some numbers. And if you don't, we're out. And they were out. They're gone. They were gone. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think that he was kicking the can down the road, just waiting to be able to blame Colorado or somebody.
Big 12. Right? Yeah. Nothing is his fault, ever his fault, or the conference's fault. Nothing. Right. It's a lack of accountability, which is another sign of horrendous leadership.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. John Till, this is funny. Great. And thank you for the super chat again. If you want to heal, offer Stanford and Cal, the snob pod. Yeah, that's funny. This never, they,
that's it's actually ironic that Stanford, believe it or not, it's out there, but they could go to the Big 12. And you know what the reason why? They wouldn't have to share their research. So if they just want to be in a league and just participate, it's ironic that would be the reason, but their research dollars are so much and they don't want to share it.
Way too damn far up though.
They could go to the Big 12. I'm just saying it could happen.
Sure.
They don't want to be orphaned. They don't want to be orphaned. They don't want to be Oregon State and Washington State. They don't want to go independent. If they come in and say, you know what, we're good because the reason we're not over here is because they want something we're not going to give them, I can see that happening.
They needed to come to that conclusion a year ago.
Of course, they all did.
Convince Cal of that. And let's go get some schools based on athletics. We can do our research. We can be snobby in our own neighborhoods here, but Boise moves the needle. San Diego State for us moves the needle. You can go, if you want to go into Texas, look, the answer is an SMU. I don't understand that at all. There's some other programs down there, but just get over that and think about the strength of your athletics.
You know what I mean? They're watching TCU and Baylor in Dallas. They don't care about SMU.
Yeah, it's Texas, TCU, and Baylor, and SMU. As I've been joking, I don't even know they carry their neighborhood viewership. I don't even think that part of Dallas probably they're watching other things.
How often they're on television? You know what I mean? I couldn't tell you. Of course, I don't watch a lot of American Conference football either, so it's I get it, but I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see that one ever being a thing. And just like that, this idea that first off, it's like you said before, they had 2.5 weeks to make the decision to get SDSU and bump up that value before.
Right.
They had time to do this and they didn't do it.
Yep.
They left them hung out to dry and ended up, they was going to cost them more money. Now they're saying it's an upgrade. If it was an upgrade, you would have done it weeks ago. You would have done it years ago, for that matter. CU might have made it in. Utah wouldn't have.
If the ACC blows up, like I've been told people are actively trying to do, I think no more.
Happen? Before you say that, tell me how this is going to happen then.
I explained it to you. There's 4 schools. I'm not going to name all of them, but there's 4 schools that are actually looking at there's some legalese in there. And I could get you the screenshots of the documents, but they basically say they can, with enough money, they can buy themselves out of these deals by suing the conference. There's things that things that haven't been able to meet.
ESPN as well, or what?
Well, see, that's what's ironic. Any of the teams that want to go to the SEC, they're already ESPN schools. So for them, they're not changing broadcasters. They're just changing conferences. So the only ones that would really affect would be guys going to the Big Ten. So conceivably, you could get all of these schools that want to go to the SEC. They could go through this legal process, sue to get their rights back, and they're gone. They'll pay hundreds of millions of dollars to do it. I'm not saying it's going to be cheap, but all of us know that if T. Boone Pickens wanted to go out and he wanted to underwrite Oklahoma State going to the SEC, for instance, he could walk to him and say, hey, man, here's $5 billion. Get it done.
Step one is for him to come out of the grave, but
yes,
I get your point.
I was just picking a guy in the middle of the country. My point is that that is something now that they think they can do.
Yeah, I've heard that they feel like they have grounds based on a fraud because what they were shown by their commissioner wasn't what they got from the TV deal. And it all comes down to a TV deal that isn't just bad, it's dreadful. You talk about paying hundreds of millions of dollars. How do you do that? If they stay in that TV deal through 34, they'll all be buried.
Yeah,
They'll
they
all
can't.
They're falling
They
behind.
can't
the
wait
Big
that
12.
long. I just haven't
That won't
seen
happen.
where I felt like it was going to go any earlier than, like, you know what, 2030, 2029, 28, maybe.
The number everybody needs to be looking at is 2026. Brett Yormark told Joe Klatt they're going to blow up the current model for playoff. They're going to take it and throw it out in the garbage, and they're going to completely retool it. I think you're going to lose the auto bids, but that's not going to be a big deal because there's only going to be 3 conferences. So you only would have 3 auto bids plus 1 G5 bid. Now it's just the best teams, the best 12 or 16 teams go into a tournament at the end of the season and play for the championship. That's it. It's just simple. It's just numbers. And that's why the ACC thing isn't as dragging down as we've been told for a long, long time. And I'm just, I'm just trying to pass on information that I've gotten from some people.
And
I think it's pretty
there's no telling what's going to happen.
real.
And I mean, I think look, I would never say never to anything anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
I know from what Jim Williams was telling us for the longest time that it was pretty much a dead issue because ESPN's not just, why do they need to pay more to FSU or Clemson or whoever they end up getting in the ACC when they get them on the cheap right now and they get them in the playoff as it is? Why would they want that to be blown up if you're
Jason,
ESPN?
can I share something really quick?
Sure. Yes.
All right. I will show you guys the screen.
Real quick, guys, make sure, man, we have 311 folks in here on
That's
this.
because I'm here. That's
Absolutely
because I'm here.
amazing. Yeah,
because
whatever
David's
you
here.
want,
David is the outside. David's the new ingredient. So it's all Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado all the time.
Man. It is all these Colorado lovers. Guys, thank you so much for showing up and being here on the program. We very much appreciate it. Look, if you're not already a subscriber to the program, I get guys like this on here all the time. I love bringing on great creators like these guys, like Fitz, like Bomber. And hey, man, we got a new one in the house today. And David is, you want to talk about a meteoric rise? This is not, you weren't just BS in there, Tim. He went from 0 to freaking 2000 like this.
Hey, Jason, can you give me access to share this? It's not going to let me do it by myself. I think you have to.
It's there. It's add to stream.
There we go. Make it big screen, and I'll explain it to everybody. So the collective that I work with of influencers spans the country, and one of those groups is in Florida State. This is from the August 2nd, which is next week, Board of Regents, and the item that's highlighted here says Seminole Boosters Inc. loan. That would be the $400 or $500 million they need to buy themselves out of the ESPN contract. That's it. That none of this stuff was made up. All the stuff you're seeing online about Clemson and Florida State, there's similar statements like this in Board of Regents coming up for other schools. So that is the proof that I'm submitting, saying, everybody, if you're watching now and you don't know who I am, I appreciate that very much. Jason let me come on here. But on my show, we have been breaking this down, and it's been going for a long time.
Wow. That's pretty amazing, right? And I'll throw that back up there for just a second. So request for approval, legislative budget requests, linking industry. So they're talking about Seminole Boosters Incorporated loan.
Yep.
So what is it? And obviously that's just that's their agenda. So they're talking about there's a loan. What else would they be getting a loan for? Obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes sense. Wow.
Yeah. So
hey man,
changing the paradigm, sort of reset everybody's minds. It's real.
So they're talking about that's $500 million that they're going to.
Well, I don't know what the amount is. I was throwing numbers out, but it's going to be in the hundreds of millions.
I'll loan it to someone.
Think about it, though. Think about it. They're already spending the money, right? And they're losing money in the ACC right now. So it's a pay it forward type thing. Once they get in the big or the SEC, look how much money's going to be coming.
They would make it back quickly. If they're losing $50 million a year even if they were and they're losing more than 50, if they're losing $50 million a year, how long does it take to make up?
Right.
$500 million, whatever. I get it. And if you're Florida State and you want to compete, and I mean, we've talked to TJ Pittenger about this. I mean, the Double Fries No Slaw. Right. He's one of these guys that knows his stuff. Great show, man. Great show.
Yep.
And he'll tell you that, that they're going to get out of it. Now he's had Jim on his show. Jim doesn't think that it's going to happen right away, but he thinks that it would happen closer to that 28, 29 time.
Yeah, that just came out last week, right? Or
that's pretty awesome. I know that
it was this week that came out. So Jim hasn't even really had a chance to play. He looked at it in the group that we've got. We're sharing this information, and he's like, "Wow, okay." Basically, that means now everybody's going to have something else, another data point to look to start doing predictions.
Right,
David. I see that you got to run,
yes.
But I want to let you know it's, first of all, great to meet you. But
very much.
Second of all, I'm going to need like a detailed list in your evaluations of Boulder area dispensaries, because this is going to be an important part of being back in the Big 12. As you bring, you bring product. And
yes,
nice.
That's funny.
I can definitely do that. Thank you guys for having me on. I was saying just yesterday in my Charles Lester watch party that, we have a lot to, grow into when it comes to our tailgating culture at CU. But I mean, as long as y'all are bringing the barbecue, we can be that. We can be the recreational drug plug for the rest of the conference. So we got mushrooms decriminalized statewide now, and
I don't need that.
Everything's moving great.
Yes, you do.
So do that.
The mushrooms you need, yes.
Okay. This is what I say. I was like, you're only one person removed from mushrooms in Colorado. That's just how it is. So
this is hilarious stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, if you did like the show already, I hope you like it now. We've got almost 300 people still in here, which is amazing, by the way. We haven't had a huge, honestly, since last season during the season. So it's been a while since we've had a stream this big. I really, really appreciate that. David, man, we've enjoyed having you on here. I know that we've all kind of talked for a while here, but anything, I mean, what else do you have to add? I mean, how excited is the fan base out there? Tell me about that. Tell me that part.
Every day just continues to feel like a dream. At this point last year, we were wondering if we were on the path towards the Mountain West. And here we are, being a stock that a lot of people are very high on right now. That, I don't think if we hire Prime, I don't think if, this was rumored, of course, Rick George would deny it, that he interviewed for the AD position last fall at Auburn, I think to kind of put some pressure on the university on whether they were going to recommit to athletics or not. I mean, we're just in a whole different world now, and it feels great to be back. I don't think that we would have been preferred over a school like Arizona or Utah when it came to who Brett Yormark would have preferred to be the first school to come out here. So it really means a lot to be back, and it's going to be a fun last year, kind of putting this Pac-12 disaster behind us over the last 12 years. And really getting back to relevancy, getting back to playing football that, means a lot more to people. And I can't wait to get to know so many of you content creators, reporters, fans as we get into 2024. So thank you for having me on. I got to hop to an interview that I'm
almost here, my man, too, man.
Means a lot, y'all. And I'll make sure I connect with y'all on Twitter. If anybody wants to check out my channel, it's just David Talks Buffs. It's no frills. It's just me talking in front of a camera. So would appreciate it if you
shirtless. Are you shirtless in these videos? It would help.
Hey,
especially
man,
if I'm doing mushrooms.
Yeah, maybe if I get those mushrooms.
I don't know what you're saying.
Thanks so
Can
much.
Yeah, bye, David.
Thanks a lot, David.
What are we talking about? Please tell me what that means.
What, mushrooms? Magic
No,
mushrooms?
this chicken 1515 keeps saying, "Get that
Oh,
booger." What's he talking about?
yeah, he's always
What's
doing
on my
that. It's,
face? Tell me.
he thinks you have a booger in your nose.
Oh, tell him.
He's
Stop it.
just jacking with you, man. This is what he does. He did it to me.
It's all right.
He actually made me leave a stream one time thinking that he had that going on, bro.
Okay, all
So
right. Thanks.
he's one of my favorite
Appreciate
guys in here, but he definitely picks on people. So it is what it is, you know. So yeah, it's you don't have a booger, don't worry.
Oh yeah, thank you.
This is great, man. That's hilarious.
I was just checking. All right, Jason.
Nobody said that Oregon was a blue blood, or I don't know who said it.
No, they are not.
Let me address this. There's a difference between blue bloods and brands.
That's what we're saying.
Exactly right.
Right. Blue bloods in football, not in basketball. In football, were established with the arrival of color TV. It's my generation that remembers Notre Dame and USC, UCLA, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama playing, Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and whomever. Those are the blue bloods. Nobody's joining the blue bloods. If anyone's joined blue bloods, it might be Clemson and Florida State, but even then, I don't think they're blue bloods. They're big brands.
Yeah.
And brands can be transient. Nebraska is a blue blood, but they're losing their brand. It's certainly UCLA's lost their football brand, but they remain a blue blood. So it's interesting. Oregon and Washington are huge brands. Florida State and Clemson are huge brands. And that brings me to this, Bomber. I'm interested in this. I'm seeing Florida State might have interest in the Big 12. I'm not sure I believe that. I don't think they're suing to get out to join the Big 12.
Of course not.
No way.
But if you bring in an Oregon, if you bring in some of these other schools and raise your football profile a little more, I think you can start to see these schools being sold on the idea that, well, maybe we're going to elevate this conference to closer to equality if we join, because the basketball plays in there. There's Yormark knows how to make money, and there's decisive leadership right now in this conference that can't be denied. The guy's he's a shark, man. He's just in constant motion, constantly going, and there's energy that goes with that feeds off to all the member institutions, and I think we're picking that up in the Big 12.
I think the one thing we all need to remember is, even if they joined, and I know nobody wants this, but even if they joined only for 3 or 4 or 5 years, they're going to elevate the brand, and they're going to bring more money with them, and everybody's going to benefit from that. So from a culture standpoint and a fitting in the room and all that stuff, I get why people don't think that's a good idea. But from a practicality standpoint, even if they're in for 4 or 5 years, it's still worth it, because everybody gets, a rising tide raises all boats. And that's sort of my idea and thinking. And I got to believe Yormark's thinking the same thing, even though he's saying we only want people that want to be with us for 100 years.
Yeah. I mean, 100 years, what does that mean? To me, that's silly talk anyway, right there, because of the fact that,
well, he didn't say that, Jason. I said that.
I know, but I mean, I think that everybody's acting like anything is going to be permanent now. Nothing is permanent anymore. As much as you look at even the Big Ten and the SEC, and we look at that as the most stable of the conferences that you can get, because that's where the money's at right now. Who's to say, though? I mean, at what point are they going to decide, you know what, in the Big Ten, and say, you know what, I'm sick and tired of carrying Northwestern and Maryland and freaking Rutgers around and paying them the same amount of money when they're not doing shit? Then nobody cares to watch them.
Yeah.
Nobody cares to watch them. So, and you started to see some articles come out like that lately, where they're going to start, and even the ACC is kind of going to that model right now, that, okay, well, we're going to pay the people that are winning, right?
Unequal revenue share is never been a good thing for these big conferences.
No,
I agree with that.
But with that said, the point here is, we never talk about this, but it's coming. The de-realignment, the removal of schools that aren't carrying their weight, becomes an inevitable part of this process down the road.
It has to.
The greed just sets in so much for Ohio State and Michigan. We've seen it with Texas. They're like, hold on, we're why people want Big Ten football, not Indiana and Northwestern and Rutgers and Maryland. You guys are just tagging along. we got to remove some of these schools. We might see it with, they look at the ACC and said, well, we don't want to go to 24, but if we do this, we can be at 20. I'm just intrigued by where this will all end up. Look, we're not going to end up with 2 conferences. That whole spin. I know some of the people behind that whole thing.
Right.
That was a teenage boy wet dream they had.
Of course it was. Yes.
And it was never going to be reality.
No.
You can't exclude half the United States and expect them to watch your product.
Absolutely right.
And that's why losing the Pac-12 is bad. I think it is, but it's turned inevitable. But that's why including some of these brands back into college football at the highest level is so important. And I think that's the role the Big 12 is about to play.
I think A3 is where it's at. There's going to be 3 conferences, and then there's going to be a 4th that's made up of everybody else. And that 4th will be included in a tournament of some sort. But at the end of the day, this puts the best brands on the field. And that's all that matters. That's all we've ever wanted is the best brands on the field together to find out who the true champion is. And maybe that $1 billion, well, we know the $1 billion deal that the Big Ten got last year wouldn't be happening today. So in 4 or 5 years when they renegotiate, there's nothing to say that they're going to get that money back. It might back off if everything in the economy doesn't pick up. They're not going to be able to get that much money again. So now the conferences come back and they're closer together. So I think that's where it's going to be is A3 conferences.
Well, yeah, because I think that when you go to this, if you look at what has exploded this revenue, right? What has exploded it? It's been the playoff.
Right.
Because with the BCS, they were still making a lot of money, right? They were still making a lot of money, but nothing like this, you know, and now you're going to triple that. So you've got more weeks of this stuff. It's going to even bleed into the regular season where there's going to be so many implications. I don't see that they're ever going to go backwards revenue wise. Now, do I believe that they're going to have 2 conferences? Absolutely not. And in fact, I don't even know that 3 is the right number. I think it could be 4. I think it probably should be 4.
No,
because at 3, are you going to end up with the right number of teams?
24 teams. 3 conferences.
Okay.
That's 72.
72. Okay.
That's 72. That's over half the whole shooting match.
Right. And then, surrounding will be a universe of Sunbelt Conference regional.
AAC, Mountain West. Yeah, maybe in regions. That's exactly right, Tim.
Yeah.
That's how it would break out.
And I see someone made a comment about relegation, which is one of my pet peeves. This isn't soccer.
No, relegation is not happening.
And that's not happening at the college
I don't
level.
think that's going to happen.
And that model was born of years of.
But are they going to do that with some of these other programs that are in the Big Ten versus in the SEC, your Vandy's and your,
Yeah, it won't be a matter of you've had back-to-back bad seasons. You got to go down a level.
Oh,
It'll be we're sick of carrying you. We're voting you off. It's going to be more like Survivor or Big Brother. We're voting you out of the house, Northwestern Vanderbilt. Yeah. You're really smart. We appreciate you loaning us some books, but go away because the money's just going to be too much.
All right, Jason, I got to get.
I do too.
Okay,
I appreciate you inviting me in. And just so everybody knows, we're going to be on Mark Rogers' show in a little over 50 minutes from now. So if you guys want to come watch me and Wild Ute and Immaculate, who's one of my contributors,
I'm excited for you guys.
We'll be on that show.
Man. Awesome.
So that's a big step for us. That's probably
wasn't our friend Tony on that show yesterday?
I specifically asked for him not to be there. So I'm not into a debate.
I thought he was on there just a day or so ago.
He probably was.
He is. He's on there a lot. Yeah.
I just asked him not to be there.
He won't come on when I'm on there.
Yeah.
Which version is on? The 25-year-old Tony or the current Tony?
Right. I don't know. All right, Jason. Thanks a lot for the invite, man.
Tell everybody how to find you before you leave. Don't you do that.
Sorry. It's at B12 Mafia on Twitter, and at the Holy Rivals on Twitter. And then on YouTube, It's just Big 12 Mafia.
Awesome.
All right.
Palmer, we appreciate you coming on the show.
At any time.
We are excited to have you, and I'll be over there to watch you guys and chime in a little bit, man. So Yeah.
Protect me. Do what you can to help me, would you? Tim,
Gotcha,
it's great
man.
to see you.
Great
We
to see
need
you,
to do
Bob.
another show, okay?
Yep, yeah,
We just need
absolutely.
to
Love
get
you,
that on
brother.
the schedule. We have to do a Kansas and a Kansas State. We're going to do an every school review, and I'm
Good.
hoping you can help me with that as we do
absolutely.
the tour of the conference.
My
Fantastic.
buddy at
I'll
KU
help with some of that
24/7
too,
will
because
be
we're gonna
glad
do
to
all
do
of
it.
it.
What's
Absolutely.
that, Tim? Jason, you're right. Also.
My buddy at the KU 24/7 would probably be glad to hop on that.
Oh, that would be even better. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. I'll go by you guys' recommendations. But
Okay.
Jason obviously can help me. Cody Stovall's going to do Oklahoma State. So we've got a bunch. We just need to start that. Realignment needs to end, guys. I don't have enough hours in the day to cover all this stuff.
It's crazy.
Hey, man, yeah, it's tough to get it all together. But thanks a lot for coming on. See you here in just a bit, man. Thank you.
And for everybody that came over that came off of me, subscribe to this show. Subscribe to Tim, and let's spread the wealth. Right? There's enough air in the balloon for all of us. And if you've come here and you're here for the first time, please subscribe.
Yeah, please do. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate you.
You're welcome. We'll see you later.
All right, buddy.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Also, we have Tim. Again, appreciate you coming on, man. I enjoyed getting to talk to you a little bit over there at Big 12 Media Days. We hadn't got to talk about that a whole lot, but appreciated that a lot, and got some information from you that I was very excited to get. I was glad to hear it. So because it was kind of where I was at on it too. But folks, if you enjoyed this show, please do hit that like button. I'll go back in here and look one more time. We are at about 90. We got to get to 100 likes, guys. We got to get, there's 275 people. Help me get to 100 likes or else I'm going to keep talking. So, but we got to let Tim get out of here. I really appreciate you coming in on the show again. And hey, man,
you bet, brother.
I think your idea is freaking amazing. When I watched it yesterday, I was like, damn, that makes about as much sense. It's the one way that I think that you probably could entice, and in view of the fact they're not really. I agree with you. I don't think that they're on the hook for the Big Ten.
No,
so
not at all. Yep, folks, come check out our channel, GoPowerCat. I do daily videos. They're short form, 3 to 4 minutes every day, on a topic. I cover K-State, but I do a lot of Big 12 stuff. But also, I do a ton of realignment. Why? Because folks, I covered the Big 8. I'm old. So I've been at realignment since, 1996 when it's all started for the Big 12. And I've been through every phase of this and I've gotten pretty decent at reading tea leaves. So, but I appreciate you having me, buddy.
Good at it, man. Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, man, we appreciate you once again. And look, we will continue. Obviously, we're going to stay on top of it. It's going to continue. It's going to continue happening. It sounds like, I thought it was probably going to be over with after this Pac-12 stuff. Apparently not. The ACC is trying to blow up too. So, lots of fun. You never know what's going to happen.
No,
and here we go. Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, talk to you soon. And I hope you, hey, you're always in our prayers as well. With everything you've been going through, man, you're one of my favorite people out there. So you just keep keeping on. All right.
Oh, man, great. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Have a good one. Guys, thank you so very much for coming in. We are 3 away from our 100. I can't believe that, 250 and only 100 of you guys like it. Come on, guys. Come on. Lori, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Greg. Let's see, 9 timeouts today. Wow. Hank. Wow. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about this. What the hell is going on with that? We will continue talking. Guys, I'm on today, so keep talking. You're gonna have what? Am I? No, I don't think so. Not that I can think of. What are we talking about? Hold on real quick, though. I could get on the Norman cam. Let's see how we do this. Let's get Norman up there. How many likes can I get for Norman? Let's see. Let's find out. Wait. I'm still trying to figure all this out, but I think I'm going to get there. Oops, no. Come on, Normie. Picture in picture. There it goes. Number 2. All right, there's Norman. No, guys, thanks so much again for coming in. Yeah, let's talk a little bit. Lori, what are you freaking out about the recruiting for so much? You gotta. It's not worth getting yourself worked up. Before I saw that at the first of the show, I was like, why are you worried? Why are you worried? Is that 100? Did we get to 100? 104. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you, guys. Hey, you know what? I hadn't hit 100 people at one time since the season. So, and of course, I had a lot less subscribers at that point. And, yeah. But it was pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, I'm not sure why this picture in picture stuff isn't working. Let's see. Maybe it will. And I don't know why it's not working, guys, but it's not. So, yeah, I don't know. Why are you stressed about next Monday? Why? I don't understand. Let's get 200 likes. Yeah. Norm. You guys like Norman? He's a crazy dog, man. The dude is hard-headed, though. I'll give you that. He's hard-headed. Why are you worried about? Because anything can happen because of David Hicks. Yeah, but hey, that PTSD over David Hicks, why? Man, you got to just understand that it was A&M is going to buy some players. That's all there is to it. They're going to buy some players. This is, I had to tell Nigel earlier. I said, well, have fun at A&M, just not too much fun. Because he's up there, they're up there on the list. I think that these guys are locked still. And I mean, you got people freaking out over Williams, Winery, and Mizzou. Mizzou. Everybody's freaking out over Mizzou. Why? Are you kidding me? Oh, man. Let's see. Yeah, hey, you guys are crazy. So explain. Talk to me about this. I'll tell you what. Hank, I'll give you 5 minutes. You got to tell me what happened. Okay, you want to come in? Can you come in and talk? You don't have to show anything, your face or nothing. You can just come in and chat. I'm going to throw that in there. Either you or Cracker got to accept right here, because I got to hear this. To me, and then me before I could respond, he was such a baby. Who was being a baby? Who was it? Who was it? And so many others in the house. Hey, man, I tell you, this is what I love right here, Troy. And thank you so much for showing up. This is what I love the most, is to be able to have a bunch. These guys are amazing. If you guys haven't noticed, the guys that I bring onto my show are all freaking good. Every one of them. I mean, I wouldn't bring them on if they weren't. Jay's amazing. We know that. JJ's amazing. Look, Fitz has been around this conference and this game longer than any of us. Swain, he's been on the show. And Cody, man, as much as he's an Okie Light guy, and so is Swain. But these guys are really freaking good, right? All right, let's see. Add to stream. Here we go. These guys are just good, right? So that's something I want you guys to understand, that it excites me to be able to have these guys, and I appreciate it. Okay, now, all right, Hank, let me know what happened.
Well, it started off when I think my first 2 timeouts were picking on Tony.
They were? Oh, goody.
Yeah. Because
what'd you do?
Because apparently Tony Chartmore. It's not a very popular thing to say whenever he's reading the comments and can put me in timeout. But he was saying the exact opposite
he's a punk.
that he's been saying for the past 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that drove me insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because and what was the whole thing? What was the whole thing with because he's had me blocked on Twitter for a while. And he said that I was telling lies about him or something, and I wasn't. I was telling him about what he did with Larry Pilgrim. Larry Pilgrim's a chump too, by the way.
Yeah, that's Larry's Pilgrim.
I know that Bomber loves him, but here's what I'm going to tell you about this guy. The dude is, I can read people pretty well, and this dude likes to make everybody think he's a real nice dude, and he's just not. He's just not. And if you're there, he's been one of those Tony apologists as well. And, you know, I haven't had a conversation with Mark about it, but I'd like to at some point. But these guys are freaking insane. They've been telling lies on top of lies on top of lies, right? And it's just crazy to me. Bring on Skull. Who are you talking about who bring on Skull? Are you meaning Salt? Who are you talking about? Are you talking about oh man, why am I forgetting his name? Larry P. Yeah, that dude gets on my last nerve. Yeah, and he's been crying about everything, right? So that's why I'm going to the show here in a minute, because I want to bust his chops too. So okay, you got on him, then, and Cracker, you were getting in trouble too?
Yeah. Tim would hit us both. We would say something he didn't like.
Tim was doing it? Oh.
He would read it, he'd put us in timeout, and then he would go off on us where we couldn't respond. So that's why I managed to reach 8 timeouts, because I'd sit there and I'd wait patiently until I got my chance to send my message. And oh yeah, it was a good one by the time I got let loose. So yeah, it was.
Oh my gosh, man! You
guys, I was.
I've got.
It was too late at night.
Got my own mafia, the freaking Hall of Fame mafia out here raising hell all over the damn YouTube. I love it. You guys are amazing.
Yeah, I'd rather share it on Texas fans, but no, Tammy Pringles earned this one.
Well, the relationship is still strong with DJ Hicks. You think so, Sooner Cowboys? Boy, usually you're the one that says completely opposite. Yeah, I don't know. I think he was a lock to A&M before he started. He just used OU to get the most he could. Yeah, well, why not? I think that once you've shown BV that you're about money, then he doesn't care anymore. He's gonna move on. I don't see it happening, man. I just don't. I think
character above all.
Listen, if we talked about this too, right? I mean, you can't do it part of the time. It's got to be all the time. It can't be sometimes, man. Either you are about character, or you're not.
You got to ooze it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to sweat drops of character. I mean, that's what BB does. That's what he expects.
Yeah, he said that we should be number 1 for 2025 in the recruiting cycle. Well, if you look at the guys that the guys that they've been picking up, which is kind of weird, but they've gotten almost as many 2025 commitments as they've gotten 24. I mean, maybe not, but it's close. There's a lot, right? Kansas State's winning the 12, Trevor says. Hey, you know what? I mean, yeah. Cats by 90 over who? Not over OU, buddy. Look, I think that K-State they're my favorite aside from OU. I don't see Texas getting it done. I'm sorry, I don't. I don't trust Sark. He's won 7 games. That's it. And I just don't see that he's going to do any more. You know, because they have not had a freaking talent problem while he's been there. And he went 5 and 8 wins. Right? Oh, timeout, Hank. Yeah, you got a new nickname, Hank. A new nickname.
I might change that in a minute before I go on the USC stream.
My pastor to watch an OU game with me this year, but he said he would be too scared. Lori, you know, that's something we were going to talk about. I hope you guys that haven't become members yet. I know, paydays are different, stuff like that. Cool, whatever. Please do become subscribers. I want to do some watch parties, do some stuff like that within our. We can do that within the Discord. We can do that. We can do some private viewings and stuff like that where we can do it in here. We're working. Yes, Numbskull. I thought that's who you were talking about, Salt. I love that guy. I think he's great. I watch his show quite a bit. I think he's really good. He's been on Coos once, I think. Yeah. And I'm not that surprised about that. I'm not that surprised about that. And the thing is that Hicks's dad is the head coach down at Katy Paytel now. So of course they're going to have connections. I just don't see that happening, to be honest with you. Maybe it will. Maybe I could be wrong there. But here's the thing. It's like I said, you can't, if it mattered so much and they were so close, then he'd be at OU. Right? He would be at OU. And I think that if you burn him, and make him feel like you're coming and then you're not, I mean, I don't know. Some coaches will hold grudges like that. And I could see, BV, look, he's not struggling with, look, this class could be unbelievable. What I would tell you is, I can't imagine David Stone not being there. I know a lot of people are talking a bunch of crazy shit right now. There's no way, right? There's no way.
We're going to start a petition. Fill the photo.
Way, man. Yeah. Hey, look. Yeah. It's and what I do want to talk to you guys about for the Tuesday show with Nigel is we can't pressure him to give us any hints or anything like that. We can talk to him about what he likes about the program, what he likes about any of the programs. That's all well and good. I mean, that's cool. But the reason that he's not going to make his commitment yet is it's not because I don't think he's ready. I think that he's trying to help Melissa, the school that he goes to, by he wants to make his announcement there and show love to them. That's it, and because they're doing a new grand opening of like facilities, right? It's that's what he's doing. I'm telling you, everything I hear is that, and I think that he continues to, I mean, he was on PG show recently. I mean, he interacts with OU fans a hell of a lot more than he does anybody else, right? So, I mean, I think that's coming. Stone is coming. And Nwaneri, I mean, look, Missouri being a little closer to home, it's not that much closer. St. Louis is not 2 seconds away from KC, by the way. It's just not. And family-wise, yeah, I get it, man, maybe. But I could also see his family coming with him. Nwaneri, I think that's a lot. And, man, Mizzou sucks. Have you guys seen all the crap that Mizzou's been saying in the last few days, though? They're talking a bunch of crap about OU. Like they're, we're a better program than Oklahoma right now. Okay.
The funniest shit I've seen.
Drink.
The funniest shit I've seen is the Florida fans, since they were put in David Stone's top 5, have been railing on about.
Hey, what did Jay say the other day when he was on the show? What did he say? He said that they do that shit on purpose just to get suspense up and all that. But hey, Cody hadn't been in here, I don't think. But if you're watching, Cody, it ain't happening. So, Professor, it ain't happening. So now, Lori, he asked for dog biscuits. Yes, sir. Let's see what we got. How do you trust OU and not Texas? OU new coach haven't shown any sign that can win games. Riley isn't at OU anymore. Yeah, but here's the thing. You know why? Because these guys are recruiting, and they've every one of these guys has been a part of a national championship. Riley's none of his guys have. Every one of them. And I know the sarcasm, but he's never shown us that he can win more than 7 games. Brent Venables has recruited a defensive line pretty similar to the one that you're about to see him get now. And the guys that have come through the portal, this defense is completely a game. It's a difference maker this year. It's gonna be. He didn't just forget how to freaking coach on the defensive side of the ball, and neither did any of them, right? And it just didn't happen. So you can think what you want, but yeah, I mean, does he have to prove it? Of course. But I think that the recruiting, I don't know how you could think otherwise. I mean, they had a top 4 class a year ago. They were number 8 in under a month after he got the job when Lincoln bolted and gutted the team out. Lincoln Riley isn't everything you think he might be. I'm going to tell you that right now. Not. Yeah, all Missouri does is bark. They've been full of crap forever. They used to be a Big 8 and Big 12 team. You know what their record is against OU? It's like crap.
Missouri was a basketball school when they were in the Big 12.
They weren't even that good at that, man.
No, they were competitive at least.
Yeah, but they beat Oklahoma once every 10 years, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like Okie Light. It's almost, and maybe worse. Yeah, power line. It's going to happen, guys. It's going to happen. Chrissy last season was embarrassing, but it's one season. And it does happen. Yeah, it happens. But look, what do you, if you're, is Chris, are you a Texas fan? I guess. Or Chrissy, how do you not? Okay, so you're a Texas fan, I'm guessing. What about the 5 wins? I mean, your season was worse than the one that OU had last year. Your first season with Sark was worse.
Oh, but that's a past. The way past.
It's, I mean,
not the recent past.
They actually still had talent. I know that they did have to change some of it out for culture reasons, and I get that part, you know. And honestly, I said this, and I've said this quite a bit, is that to me, I actually respected Sark at Big 12 Media Days, man. The guy stepped up and took responsibility and said that not only him, but okay.
But how did the team that recruits like Texas lose 6
a quarterback
straight
injury derailed them too? Yeah, they look, when you had Chris, what did you say? We will see. Has been running his mouth lately. I still think Texas is better. Who's been running his mouth lately? Are you me? I always run my mouth, just so you know. That's all the time. So yeah, okay. So here's the deal. I'm gonna tell you this. I actually got respect for what he said. They took responsibility. He said not only him, but his team, that 41 media members are picking them to win the Big 12. You know, they hadn't done it since 2009, and they should have, you know, they recruit fine every year. Right? Yeah, without Patterson, and here's the thing, here's a good question. No, I don't think he is. And you know, Coach has said why he thinks that is. And it's probably because you've got people there that are saying don't, because some of them don't believe in Sark. Look, man, when you've only won 7 games. Yeah, it was not last season, the year before that, though.
I read an article that Patterson was leaning coming back.
Who's he been running his mouth about? Who's he been running his mouth? He's been running his mouth about Miami and freaking Coach Prime. I don't think that he's said anything about Texas. And if he does, who cares? Like, Sark doesn't talk shit too. Come on, man. Come on. Get out of here. Crazy stuff. Venables will be fine. OU recruits itself. Yeah, I agree with that. And can't stop. Yeah, they're going to talk, man. They're going to talk. But again, I do think that I think Sark is accepting that they should win it. And if you're looking at talent, yeah, they should. But there's nobody that's even close to him aside from OU. And you know what? Their record against OU isn't good. You guys got your win last year whenever DG was out, but then what? I mean, you've only won 3 out of 10. You've been losing to Okie Light a lot. What are you talking about OU for? I think Okie Light's won 6 of 10 against them.
The one school Gumby can beat.
Shit, in the third quarter. Don't tell me how good they are. I don't want to hear it. Because they don't freaking. I mean, when Sark learns to make an adjustment, then you can tell me how great they are. Okay. Because when you have a 17-point lead and windy ass freaking stadium up there in freaking Stillwater, and you keep throwing the ball with Quinn instead of stamping freaking US Mail on Bijan's ass and Roshan, I got to tell you, I don't understand that. I would have sent them. He wouldn't have thrown the fucking ball again towards the end of the third quarter. He would not have had another throw in that game unless it was in the backfield. Like the last time that Bijan touched the ball in that game, touchdown from 50, he was a little under pass. He was still in the backfield and we caught it and went for 50 and didn't touch the ball again, I don't think. Yeah, I got to tell you, man, I'm just not that impressed with the way that he coaches, right? He can draw up a good game plan to start with. When the coaches make an adjustment on the other side, he doesn't. Same thing we saw in the bowl game with them. I mean, they looked good against UW to start with, and then what happened? And man, that was the barkiest coach I ever saw out of the whole Sark. Do you see him about to kill that guy for touching him? That was hilarious, by the way. Yeah. You're scared of Sark when he gets to the SC. I'm gonna open up back a score. Salt, man, that ain't even funny, man. But it is. Hey, look, though, the one thing I'll say about Sark, I got to give him props for that, man. He faces demons, and he's been clean, and I mean, I think that's good. Look, I think that he's a good offensive mind. I think he's better when he's got somebody to tell him what to do. That's just me. Did you run off, Hank? You did run off. Where'd you go? All right. Yeah. Okay, guys. Yeah, I got to get to. So let's see. We have, man, you guys are awesome. 119 likes. We still got 175 going, but we got to go and get this dog some food and back where you belong, man. You're the man. We appreciate you, though. But guys, we do definitely appreciate you being in here. And Chris, look, I think that they're going to be. I think they should win the conference, man. They should win at least one game out of two against OU if they let them be in the conference championship game. I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but that being said, I think that if you're OU in Texas, you don't have much excuse, really, right? You just don't have a huge excuse there. You've got the talent to go do it. Oklahoma doesn't have to play K-State. They don't have to play Tech. And K-State has been a pain. They've lost 3 or 4 to them. It's like Kansas to Texas, right? But, hey, thank you, Salt. Appreciate that. Guys, I appreciate it a lot. And I do think, yeah, Bama. I don't know. I that's one nobody seems to agree with me, but I think you guys should win it. It is on the road, so it's going to be tough. But K-State beating Texas and Austin, that's possible. Could happen, Trevor, but it could also not happen. And because here's the thing, as much as Texas has had an issue with the Jayhawks, they've beaten K-State 6 times in a row. So I don't know. Let it play out. And listen, Salt, you guys got a squad too. I'm a little concerned about Tech. I'm glad that I'm kind of glad, but I do feel like that would be. I would have liked to have seen OU play them one more time on the way out. Maybe they will in the championship game. I think that's the hard part for Tech and for K-State is that they both got to go to Austin, right? Texas and Kansas. Ooh, this is the most dangerous Kansas we've seen, isn't it? They may not have a defense, but if Jalen Daniels is healthy, they're scary. Yeah. Scary. Guys, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you coming in. If you hadn't hit the like, please do that on the way out. If you're not already a subscriber, I hope you become one while you're here, including you, Eric. We actually even like Texas fans in here, believe it or not. We will go back and forth with you. And at Red River Week, we may not want to be here. But aside from that, you're welcome in anytime. All of you guys are. Anybody who's, new to the channel, folks, let me know that you are new to the channel. We appreciate that. Glad you chimed in. Hey, look, man, it's, well, yeah, I get it, man. Most of them are okay, though. We've had a couple in here lately that are a little over the line. But Eric's been okay. And you know what? Ran isn't too terrible. We like Ran, usually. So, yeah, thanks a lot, guys. And anytime you want to come in, we'd love to have you. We will see you. Tuesday is our next live stream, 8:30 Eastern time, right here. It's CFB-Pod. Hey, become a channel member. You can do it for as cheap as $3. We'll be able to talk more through places. You get automatic membership into the let's see, automatic membership into. Have you guys noticed for you folks that, real quick before I let you off, have you seen the emojis for you? Have you guys seen the emojis for the channel? Here it comes. It should be here any second now. Maybe. Does try to bring facts. I like Rand. He's okay. Oh, no, it just shows that his horn's down in here. Okay, so You'll see it. You should see it on your feed though, right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yep, there it is. Pretty good, right? Like that. See you guys on Tuesday. We even hooked it up for everybody, but here's some OU DNA as well. And guys, I appreciate you coming in, but we'll see you guys on the next one, okay?